We're here with Jude, who is a jack of all trades in the music industry. Jude, I am so excited to dive into your story. You are an absolute vibe. You've been a value add to my life ever since I met you. So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for coming on, man.
Man, it's my pleasure. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to meet a fella like yourself.
Thank you. Awesome, man. We'll get right into it. Can you talk about why do you think music speaks to the soul?
Well, music, the core of what music is emotion. And so deeper and beyond anything else, it is just a way of conveying emotion. And I think that that's exactly why it speaks to the soul, because there's no other place it could speak to.
And when you look at the music industry, one thing you really want to focus on is creating a healthier music industry. Can you kind of dive into why that is important to you?
You know, it's important to me because A, you've seen historically, I mean, artists from Prince having to not even go by a name anymore, go by a symbol because of how fucked up it is. Or, countless artists have been like, I like this perspective of when you're a business and you give up ownership equity in your business, you get money and you have that money now. That is not debt. In the music business, you give up most of your business, a solid majority, and you're fucking in debt for it. I mean, that's crazy. How does this is the only business in the world that works like that? So, I mean, I think that really it's important to me that with the tools that we have nowadays, it's possible to create a healthier music business. And so I think that we should do it.
And what does that mean to you? Like if you could wave a wand right now and say this is what the music industry looks like, what would it look like to you?
Well, it would really be changing the structural aspect of every part of the industry, meaning the ticket resellers colluding with the ticket sailors, you know? And the labels need to be completely restructured. Also, there's a lot of inefficiencies and there's a lot of corruption where it all of this money is kind of surrounding at the top as opposed to paying, like, for example, all of the big three music labels, Warner, Sony, and Universal, they have shares in Spotify. Why don't we have the artists that are actually making all the music getting micro shares in Spotify, micro shares in Apple Music? You know what I mean? That doesn't make. And then for Warner and all those guys to own that, why don't they pay their artist part of the shares? You know, there's just no money in the music business for, like, here's some perspective, man. I get passionate now. So Uptown Funk made between 3 and 10 million, somewhere in there. I can't remember what it was exactly. And before, you'd have records sell, like Thriller has made a few 100 million. You know what I mean? They're like, it's just this, the scale of money has completely changed. And granted, it's changed all over the industry. But if you look at actually how much money the business is making, it hasn't changed enough to elicit 100x or 10x downsizing in what the artists get paid. So it's just definitely something that needs to be changed, something that needs to put a time and energy towards changing.
And I think as you kind of mentioned earlier, they give away a lot of their like equity to these people, which then strips away the artistic nature of it, as we just saw with Oliver Tree and
Yeah.
and his passing and the things that he talked about. I think it takes away the humanness of the art, which then I think, as we talked about earlier, strips away speaking to the soul. I think you can see music like most of the rap industry kind of talks to the material body, and then there's other musicians that speak to the soul. And I think when you're in it just for the money, it really strips that deepness away from it, which then strips away the beauty of the art.
Well, and another thing is a lot of people don't realize that when you sign to a label and all these other avenues, they do 9 times out of 10 control what you are able to put out creatively. And if they don't agree with what you're putting out, they can shelf you and you can literally be forced legally to not make music for the next 10 years, however long. So it's definitely a very interesting dynamic in that sense to go to what you're saying.
And can you kind of dive into what are the things you're personally doing right now or are striving to do to really even make a micro impact on this side of business?
So, in my opinion, it's not about making a micro impact, it's about making an ultimate revolution in the sense of I'm currently taking off pieces of literally every corner of the business. So whether that's live events, that's agencies, that's booking, that's management, that's um, audio rental, that is every segment of the business possible. I want to reformulate it into something that's absolutely the healthiest model for the consumer, the musician, and to where yes the business people can still get paid to run the business but not on a gluttonous level, you know.
Absolutely. And one thing that I find fascinating is how you're cultivating an environment that is that's all about collaboration, right? Like we can all win together.
Yes.
I think one kind of mindset I think a lot of musicians dive into is that they have to do something. They have to be in this survival state forever. Of like, oh, like I'm a creative, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, so that means I don't make money, or that means I'm in a survival state. Can you kind of talk about your your perspective on that and why you were trying to build like an empire and get wealthy to kind of get out of that like traditional like artist mindset?
Well, I think that that traditional artist mindset is the one you're forced to have when you don't do it another way. And so all I'm trying to do is be brave enough to do it a different way. And so I could pave not only a path for myself to do it in this new way, but more importantly, after I do it that way, it will pave the way for everyone else and show them that it's possible to have a new industry in this sense.
And how do you think like if you're talking to that artist that is struggling, they're like, I will never make money. I always have to work a job. What is that advice to them where you can kind of give them a little hope to be like, hey, things can change for you?
You know, um, there's two parts to that because I will say I'm having to sacrifice my ability to write all day, my ability to progress those skills, to be a businessman first. So that way I can actually make the money that would fund myself, that would XYZ, um, and, help create the path for all the other artists. So really, right now in the current landscape, it's hard. There's a lot fewer options. You're stuck in this catch 22. So either you have to structurally change what is in order to do that, or your one other failsafe actually is if you were to create a marketing plan and create a business plan that was so solid that you could present it to an untraditional music business investor and to like a normal business investor and say, listen, we want to treat this like a company instead of a music business. So instead of you fucking me over and putting me in debt, how about you invest in this marketing plan and we profit share? And that would be the best route right now that you could actionably take without having to structurally change the music business.
That's interesting. And do you think there are a lot of investors out there that would be open to doing that?
If you created a business plan that shows how profitable it could be in an actionable way, which is very difficult to do, then yes, you absolutely could do it today. And I'm not saying difficult is impossible, but it is. Um, you have to put a lot of creative thinking into it, which you're in luck because you're a creative if you're in the business.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I actually found very, very interesting is that you also teach music, and one thing that you do teach is ear training versus theory. Can you kind of talk about why is this a method that you teach, even though it is pushed back a lot by like other music, like educators or people in the music industry in general?
So for me, I'm not really teaching Juilliard level students to continue to go down that path. My market is people that are getting into it, and that are at the intermediates and just edging the advanced levels. And being someone that has taught myself all 10 instruments, or I'm sorry, all 5 instruments I play for 10 years, it's been something to where I've gotten very close to this philosophy of the fun and the passion comes first. Because, I mean, out of all the people I know, you probably know a lot more people that actually have taken music lessons and gotten out of it. And they're like, oh, yeah, my teacher sucked and this and that. And well, it's because they were trying to force them to be Juilliard level students. Whereas if you build the passion in them first, those kids, those adults will intrinsically want to grow to that Juilliard level if they want to. Or they'll find that they're just as successful without needing all of that theory. So it all depends on your goal. For example, I'm not someone that could go into any studio session and read the sheet music that they created and play it perfectly the first time. But I do think that I can create some really cool original songs because of my lack of theory knowledge, because I'm not stuck in a box anymore. And so now I make complete like key changes in the chorus and mode changes and all of this thing that would be a mind fuck, for lack of better words, if you know the theory.
That's fascinating. And one thing I think that really stuck out to me was your ability to have fun. And I think what's so fascinating about life, like you said, is when you allow yourself to live in the present moment and just kind of vibe, it allows you to move outside of the box, and it allows you to not do things by the system, which, as you just said, creates beautiful things that aren't perfect. And I think the idea of having fun and kind of letting yourself flow. I've seen a lot of people talk about like being the joker or like being the fool of life, in the essence of like just like still being serious but still like being fun at the same time. Can you kind of talk about your perspective on your ability to do things well but still kind of bring this like present moment funness to life, because I think that's one of the things like that you do best as well.
Well, I can really only clearly speak to, without further clarification, on the music side of creating music. When I'm creating music, the best music I create comes from when I'm just having fun and making what I ultimately want to hear, what I want. I go where my mind wants to go. And I've found that like creating music for films and stuff, when they need a specific objective, they need it to sound this way, yada, yada. I'm really not passionate about that anymore, because it takes the exploration out of it, takes that childlike wonder out of it. Actually, I think that's a big part about it, is taking that out of music. When I'm meeting people and making relationships and connections in business, part of the reason it's so fun to me is that childlike wonder, it's that exploration, and that just genuine excitement of curiosity and being interested in what they're doing. Like I've always loved learning, and I'll be a lifelong learner. And I think that that's a really key factor to making life fun, is never losing that childlike wonder.
Is this something that you've had to cultivate throughout your life?
It's something that where I'm young enough that I didn't get it beaten out of me and then I realigned. You know what I mean? Where I didn't let it get beaten out of me. So it's really just all about, like, for example, you go to a job and you meet a guy that ate shit for 20 years, and he's like, "Oh, you want my job? Well, you got to eat shit for 20 years." And that's not true. You could fucking create a company and be above him in 2 years. You know what I mean? So it's just, the world's your oyster, man. You can create what you think, and you are your own limitations. But it's hard to do something like that, and that's the reason why people quit. Is they? I was just actually hearing a coach, Chris Carlisle, Super Bowl award-winning coach, speak at an event I was at, and he was talking about the learner phase is your first phase, but the warrior phase is where most people quit. This is where you shoot a million free throws. There was an NBA player that was speaking to that. He only got paid for his a million and first free throw, you know? And so to go and struggle throughout this whole long duration and not know for certain if it'll ever end, if you'll be able to get out of it, that's where most people quit. And that's the difference between a business owner and someone that remains as an employee. And there's nothing wrong with that, because some people want to go home at, after an 8-hour shift, and they want to enjoy this little things in life and be comfortable. I thrive myself on being uncomfortable, on taking risk, on doing something greater because I know I'm capable of it. And I think that for those that have that bigger aspiration, I've encouraged you to go and do it. And there's nothing wrong with not having that aspiration. But it's just, what do you want most out of life?
There's so many routes that I could go next. You spoke on so many great topics. One thing you mentioned, the grind and how consistency is necessary during this, with the free throw example, which was great. Um, how I kind of looked at all that is like, you have kind of two routes. You have the hustle culture route where you're like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to grind out these free throws. I'm going to push through all the pain. Or there's the other route where you can say, hey, I'm going to fall in love with the process. I'm going to find a way to make this something that I love, even when it sucks and I don't feel like doing it. I'm going to love the process and flow with life. I really want you to kind of give your perspective on, like, how does someone go about finding that love in the grind versus just trying to bulldoze their way through their goals?
Well, I think that's the difference of that is the reason I was able to quit nicotine and weed easily. Because when you quit nicotine and weed out of willpower, and mainly nicotine is the real bugger, that a lot of people quit out of willpower, and they'll go years on this willpower. They'll be depriving themselves for years. And there's a great book, it's called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking, that talks about this. And so instead of depriving myself ever, I had to reframe all of that into a simple not needing of it anymore. And so I think when you reframe life from this grind to loving the process, that's when you're able to shoot those free throws. And like, I don't want to live a life, and I'm not okay with living a life in which I didn't try everything I could to do this. So that's not a grind, it's a necessity. It's a need. And I'm grateful that I get to do it every day.
With you quitting nicotine, that's a huge, huge, huge accomplishment, which is amazing, man. Congrats on that.
Thank
That's
you.
huge. Of course. How do you go about not needing something and still being fulfilled, to not need that thing to fill a void in you?
Well, in my case scenario, I was using it to avoid So there'd been a lot of childhood stuff that I'd never dealt with. And there was about a year period when I was in sixth grade that I was like looking for weed basically for a year. And I knew I wanted, like, I was very depressed for this year. And just everything kind of caught up to me. So then I finally started using nicotine weed, and it was an escape for me so that I didn't have to deal with all the emotions and deal with myself. And I finally went to a coaching seminar where the whole point of it was dealing with myself, because I got to the point where that was the only thing blocking me. Um, I was being hindered by myself not being able to connect to these emotions, accept them, and then move on from them. Because I'm a radical optimist. So while I was using all of this subconsciously to break away and hide that, I was so radically optimistic to where I didn't realize anything was wrong in the first place. And that to me was the big breakthrough, where it's like, no, it's important to feel into these things. It's important to give yourself grace. Um, it's important to not always be okay. And that's really what made the change for me. Is I knew I couldn't connect to my emotions unless I had done what I did.
Why do you think you and yourself had the self awareness to be able to question things versus other people that go years or even their entire life without changing? Like, what about yourself do you think makes you so different that you were able to question things about you compared to other people that will never do that?
Well, part of it is self-worth. I was very blessed and fortunate to, I mean, my parents showered me with affirmations and good love from 0 to 4. And then it seemed like after that, I was chasing and searching for that. But I got instilled with this great foundation. And so that great foundation allowed me to believe in myself. And then the other part of it is my dad was a cover band musician. He never made it to the extent he wanted to, but he's doing exactly what he wanted to do, even if he won't always admit it. He's doing exactly what he wants to do, and he's found a way to make a living doing it. He might not have, all these different things, that he might not be in the safest position because of it, but God damn it, he's doing it. You know what I mean? And so I think that really inspired me and showed me when I was 13 that no matter what, I can not live up to the, whatever standard I held for myself. And I can at least do what I love. I could at least end up working my fucking ass off 330 nights a year, and, working all day, all night. And, like, that inspired me. It really did. And part of the reason I want to do everything I do in the business is to kind of give that opportunity to other kids and show them it's possible.
That's it. That's exciting, and I love your passion. And I actually went back on your Facebook page and saw that you and your dad were very close. You guys used to play airsoft together a lot with the family. Um, it seems like your dad was a huge inspiration in your life. Is there? Have you told him this? Does he know this?
Immensely. Yes, 100. We have a very great relationship. And any of the troubles that we've ever had has only been because he fucking loves and cares for me so much that he just doesn't want to see me fail. So he might be pushing me to take a safer path when I'm like, no, I'm gonna risk it all. And other than that, I mean, yeah, we have the most wonderful relationship, and I'm really grateful for him.
Is there anything that you haven't told your father that you would like him to know?
No, I'm very open about expressing myself when I feel a certain way. And well, maybe I haven't told him this, but one of the most emotional experiences and one of the things that I use to manifest my ultimate goal of being an original artist, playing in front of 80,000 people, because that's what I love doing. Is I love writing and playing, performing. Is I would love to be on that stage, and this is my moment I manifest. And I see the sea of people, the 80,000 people out there. And then I'm able to look back off to the side of the stage and see him in his eyes, and that this is what he wanted to do too. You know what I mean? And it's not, I don't want to do this because of him, but it's really cool that he could get a moment to live vicariously through me and be like, holy shit, we did it. And it kind of brings me to tears, you know, and that's why I use it as my manifestation moment because it's the most emotionally pulling experience to me. But it's something where he can see that it all happened just the way we thought it would, despite all the doubts, despite anything.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm honored that I get to hear that from you because that's beautiful, and
Oh yeah.
I think he would he would love to hear this as well. It seems like
Oh, I'm sure he would. Yeah.
amazing. Well, Jude, I have one more question for you. If you could narrow down your life to one word, what would it be and why?
Revolution. Because so my full name is Jude Elijah Rose, and that's two biblical names. I got curious a year ago. I'd intrinsically wanted to do everything I want to do for years before I looked this up. And both of those biblical names, Jude and Elijah, they both focused on fighting the corruption in the world. And they both had a large part in, and I'd almost have to read it again to describe it all. But what's funny about all of that is it aligns so perfectly with what I really want to achieve in this life and paving a healthy path for musicians to connect to the people of the world. You know, like what I want to do would enrich everyone's life in this fucking planet. And that's what makes me passionate is I want to create a better world. I want to change the world for the better. And I have the capability to do that. And so there's absolutely nothing that will stop me from creating this lovely, lovely life.
This is why we align so much. It's beautiful. I love it, Jude. Thank you for sharing that. Those are the questions I have for you. How can people find you, and what is one thing you want to leave people with?
You can find me on Instagram at _.justjude. And one thing I'll leave everyone with is no one's better than you, no one's worse than you, no one's different than you. We're all just fucking people. The president, you know, me and Easton, a kid that you meet off the side of the street. I can learn something from everyone, and I think that that's the most beautiful thing possible is really connecting back to this human nature of like anything is possible and anyone can make it possible. It is just you and how you show up with yourself and the beliefs you have about yourself that will allow you to push past and do the things most people think aren't possible based on their common limiting beliefs that are fed to all of us. I mean, we're all set up to fail in the way that everything works. So just going against that grain and giving yourself the opportunity and the chance to do something greater is one of the most wonderful, empowering things that you could possibly do in this life. And everyone is capable of it.
Thank you for that, Jude. It was an absolute pleasure. We could talk for hours. I have so many notes of different paths I wanted to take with you on this conversation, but it was an honor, man. I appreciate you. If you want to stay in the room after this and we can chat, and just
Yeah,
you're a blessing, and I'm grateful for you. Me and my co-founder Brian both are super grateful for you and just all the help that you've given us. So thank you, Jude.
absolutely. It's my pleasure, man.